Well, hello and welcome to the Courageous Influence Talk Show, Season 2.5. I am Alex and I'm joined by Pastor Caleb. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
You changed it. It used to be my pastor and mate.
Yeah, oh well, I changed the whole thing because I just wanted to chuck in the 2.5.
I thought I just got downgraded. We are no longer friends.
No,
What did you lose over COVID, my friends?
I just wanted to chuck in the Season 2.5 because I thought it was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah.
I laughed.
We're having a good time. We're back in the studio.
You know what my
after
wife does
months of lockdown.
When things are funny, my
Yeah.
wife says, "That's funny." I'm like, "Why do you laugh then?"
That was noteworthy.
Yeah. Just letting you know.
Yeah,
That's what you do when things are funny, producer.
that was.
But we'll be
funny.
watching his show together, and Rennes will go, "Oh, that's funny." Good observation. Most of us go.
Have you heard of laughter?
Anyway.
That was so funny it almost made me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's serious.
That was seriously funny, Caleb.
Thank you.
Mate, it's good to be back in the studio. It's
Great to be back.
Been a few months.
Anyone would think the producer was a bit rusty this morning.
Anyone would think it.
But
No one would know it unless
Hold
we
your
told
tongue,
them.
please.
Hold your tongue.
Nah, the producer's doing a good job.
He's on-
Are you back to be? Are you glad to be back in the studio, producer?
I'll tell you what, quarantine's taking another side of me.
Taking another side of you.
Well, the producer, I believe, is back at school.
Ooh.
I never actually left work, so
That's my secret identity.
Can't let anyone know he's a teacher.
that was funny.
One of my best.
I'm going to try and find a buzzer sound effect, and every time one of you guys says that, I'm just going to play that.
Yeah, so, mate, where were you? This can be like a story you tell your grandkids one day.
Mm.
Where were you when Central West went into lockdown?
Oh, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to,
That memorable.
yeah, I'm going to have to make it up.
Mm.
See if you still know.
Well, Melissa and I
I do remember now. Keep going.
had gone to Mudgee. We were going to try and have a weekend away
Yes.
because we were exhausted because we're in the middle of our build.
Mm.
And we got there. We managed to have lunch, but then the call came out before we could check into our hotel saying that Central West Mudgee was going into lockdown, that you needed to be gone by 5 or you're going to have to basically be stuck there.
Oh, wow.
So we had to,
You didn't decide to
Jump
spend a
in
couple of weeks in Mudgee?
would have been nice.
Would have been.
Maybe.
I was actually fall driving with a bunch of friends.
Mm.
And we were out of service. And then just as we
you
started
came
coming back
back.
in service, everyone's phones are going ping, 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 ping. And we started looking at them going, oh, far out. Oh, well, at least we spent the last, because it was Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That was a great way to spend our last day of freedom.
That's it. So we were like, well, at least we got to have a lunch before we
Yeah.
went into lockdown. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then who knew it would go for quite so long? It was huge this time.
Yeah, it just kept on going.
It did.
And it just kept getting worse in Sydney and
Yeah.
crazy times.
It was long. It was a long time to be homeschooling and trying to work and trying to readjust things. I found this lockdown more intense in that way than last time. I think it was longer.
We weren't in lockdown this way, though, last time.
Not to the same degree, no. But
No.
kids were sent home from school.
Kids were,
But anyway,
Mm.
there are aspects of that I really, really enjoy.
What was the highlight of lockdown?
Yeah, just with the kids home, doing homeschooling. You know, you just concentrate on the essentials. There's none of those. How do we not offend any teachers out there? There's none of those subjects that just fill the day up.
Yeah.
There's no playtime and recess. There's no sport and
Yeah.
cooking and whatever. So it's just get the essentials done.
Yeah. And
then jump on motorbikes or whatever it was.
then life learning.
Yeah, put a whole new motorbike track in for the kids, which they got really good on.
Yeah, nice.
To the point that I had to start going to them, slow down. You give me the heebie-jeebies. I'm going to have to put some more corners
You're
in.
getting the crazy eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Just that extra time with them.
Yeah.
But then by the end, they were all a bit stir-crazy and ready to go back.
Yeah, I bet. got to go see the friends.
Yes.
How did this was saying we were interested to see how it would turn out, the friend bubble thing. Did you guys
No, we didn't really even
didn't
end up-
worry? Being out
No.
of town, it's a bit hard anyway.
Yeah, we're out of town. And to be honest, like again with that, it's not like we're stuck in a house. We've got 100 acres to roam.
Yeah.
So that side of it, we're abnormally blessed in that you have the social isolation, but like my brother lives in the middle of Melbourne in a little unit,
Yeah.
most lockdown city in the world,
Yeah.
and he works for a government job, so they get sent home, and just months of just being in a little 2-bedroom unit in the middle of Melbourne, whereas our kids are roaming around,
Yeah.
chasing wildlife, riding motorbikes. It's a very different experience. So
yeah, that's it.
it wasn't like we were bored at all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was just that you eventually got to the point where the 3 kids were sick of just playing with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's been great, just getting back out and having some friends.
Nice. My high of lockdown was probably that I got promoted.
Did you again?
No, it was in lockdown.
Oh, was that in
Yeah.
lockdown? Oh.
Again.
Oh,
No,
man,
well,
twice in 6 months, you're on fire.
So that's kept me busy.
And you got a car for work now. That's pretty cool.
So Melissa doesn't have to get up early on podcast mornings
Yes. An official
now.
work car.
So I left her in bed this morning.
Mm-hmm.
She was
Do you
happy.
feel the obligation of behaving in the car?
Yes.
Like you're representing your company. You don't want to be speeding.
There has been a few times, when you're at a roundabout and there's always a moment where it's like, oh, can I get through there? Or can I? And then sometimes you've gone through and you're like, oh, I probably just snuck through there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh,
No.
they just saw skill set.
yeah, yeah. No driving through amber lights.
No. Especially after talking with my brother-in-law the other day, who's now a policeman, and he just fined some people for going through orange lights. And I said, who are you?
Hey, get out.
You've changed.
Christmas isn't happening. It's off.
He knows that that's raw for me.
Yeah. I'm still not over it. I think the biggest thing is you could never, and I don't think you would anyway, it's not really your personality, but you could never road rage now.
No.
Like you flip someone the bird and then they can then be like, oh.
I do get people that wave to me unexpectedly, and so I don't get a chance to wave back, and then I realised they just thought I was someone else in a skill set car, and now they think they're a jerk and didn't wave back.
That's cool. Why didn't you wave to me, mate? I didn't see you.
What are you talking about? This is over.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Have you ever? There are those people though. I've got some friends who you drive past them all the time, but they don't look ever.
Never.
There's no point waving to them.
I've been working on all the different wave techniques because, saying we've been out at Melissa's parents' place, so you're a bit out of town, so it's a bit more expected to wave.
Yeah.
Well, I think so anyway. Not everyone thinks that. But there is one guy that walks who's a really enthusiastic waver. So I always love to get to see him.
Yeah.
He'll wave even if he's walking and facing the other way.
The
You'll
hand
hear the
goes up.
car coming and you big wave.
Yeah.
But then the truckies, there's some truckies that go past. And so I've been trying to study all the different types of waves. There was a guy going past on the tractor the other day. He does the pistol wave.
Ooh.
And he's just like,
You got to be the right character to get away with that.
the other day, and I even managed to talk Melissa into this to do it with me.
No.
Mexican wave. We went like this, and then we had the cyclist going past us, and we were go, "Woo, Mexican wave."
Did he acknowledge?
I don't think they really picked up, but we loved it.
Oh, what a shame. That's awesome.
So we'll test it out a few more times, see if we can get someone to have a reaction.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, you're probably just going too fast, but anyway.
Yeah, we'll keep working on it. You've only got a short window that they can see you.
It is an out-of-town thing, hey. Like I've noticed, especially driving in the sort of community that we live in, lots of people wave.
Yeah.
And then you sort of hit
And then you hit ego and they start waving.
Yeah.
It's just like,
back in the big smoke.
oh, the big smoke of ego. Oh, man. Well,
I'm guessing that they're going to start teaching this stuff in school now.
oh, they bet. What? They're not teaching hand waving skills at school?
See?
Jeez.
Maybe
Like I said, we just concentrated on the essentials, right? I guess.
Like waving.
Yeah, we got them.
Yeah.
We got the
It's
got
gonna
the kitchen
become
chair set up.
curriculum.
Okay, you're in a vehicle. Someone's approaching you. What do you do?
When do you wave? No, too soon, Eliza. Too soon.
What do you do next? Indicate. No, you wave.
we had to teach them the abort. What do you do when you? I don't know that. Pulling down the visor.
That's always a classic one to do to people. It's good to be back. Mate, do you have a life lesson for us this morning?
Yes.
You've had 6 months to think about it. 2 months.
I've got a nice little thing I've read.
This one better be good.
Yes. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them. By Henry David Thoreau.
The great 16th century poet, isn't he?
18th, but that's fine. It's a
I was trying to sound cultured.
No, you did well. It's a bit dark, but
what's the warning?
Don't live a quiet life of desperation.
So get out what you've got in you.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
You know, and it's. I'm sure you can probably apply that to your life in all sorts of different ways. But I think there's some truth in it, in that idea of too many of us. You know, I'm obviously very passionate about men's mental health, and the idea that men are living quiet lives of desperation and not knowing how to articulate what they need to in ways that's appropriate for fellas. Like, there's a lot of blokes that don't want to sit down and have a D&M every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But also it's about being able to help them process and understand the expectations that are upon them, that idea of that quiet desperation. It's like, I'm never quite enough, you know, and guys want to know that our lives matter.
Mm.
And a lot of guys are willing to, and look, I'm sure a lot of this stuff is true across genders, but speaking specifically for men, you know, that there's this sense of a lot of guys, they want to provide, they want to be a protector. There's just this, and you don't get, some of that stuff's cultural, but some of it's just in you.
Yeah.
And then there's this thing of, am I doing it good enough? Am I, you know, adding up?
Yeah.
Am I reaching the mark? And if you start to think around comparison, and I think things like social media have been really unhelpful for that. And it's not wrong to have those thoughts, but you got to process them out.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys don't, and so then they just live this life with this inner,
Yeah.
and then you see stupid competitiveness or, you know, unhealthy coping mechanisms come out in that.
Yeah.
And then the idea that a lot of people go to the grave with the song still in them. It's like, what have you actually got to give if you could just break off some of those barriers of thinking that I have to live up to this expectation, or it has to look like this. What does it look like to actually be who God's created you to be? And yeah, you will flourish, but you will still live up to those responsibilities. It's not about being irresponsible.
Yeah.
But about, you know, less worrying about the comparison.
Yeah.
And more worrying about just, you know, being vulnerable, having the conversations with those around about you, and really chasing down what's in you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because men are so naturally want to problem solve. And so the idea of expressing any feelings of inadequacy, or if you're struggling with anything, you feel as though talking about it, you're creating a problem that then needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, though often it's sort of like, oh, I'd rather just fix everyone else's problems and try and pretend that I don't have any.
Yeah.
So that I'm not adding more to the problems that I already see around me that I want to and feel responsible to be fixing or supporting, and all those things.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic. Yeah, you got to find a safe space and trusted people that you can feel comfortable with to be sharing that stuff in whatever way is uplifting to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to realise you're not the only one that feels some of that stuff. And that you're actually not responsible to fix it all.
Yeah.
I've been watching a really cool TV show that some friends put us onto, and it's I don't think it's on free to air anymore. It's on SBS On Demand, called Alone, and they drop these guys off, so 10 guys into the wilderness.
Yeah.
But they're completely on their own. So I'm only watching the first season. They go to Vancouver Island off the coast of Canada.
Yeah. Right.
And they'll be 4 or 5 Ks from the next guy, or maybe more. and the whole
Oh,
thing.
they're all spread out.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
they're not 10 together.
Yeah,
It's spread
right,
out.
yep.
You are completely alone.
Yep.
You have a safety pack plus 10 items that you select.
Yeah.
And the competition is stay there for as long as you can, and whoever's the last person to leave the island wins $500,000.
Wow.
And these guys are mad survivalists and stuff. And it's super scary. Like there's wolves and bears,
Yeah.
and they've got these like night cameras set up outside their little, because they have to make their tents or cabins or whatever they do. And some of them just freak out. Like in the second night, bears are wandering around their cabin, and they can, or their tent, they can hear them, and they're just like, nah, this is not worth dying for. But those that stay out for more than about a week, it happens really quick in complete isolation. They start confronting stuff within them that they just can't quieten anymore. They can't just, those conversations that maybe come up in family, or those inadequacies that you're afraid of, or the mistakes that you've made that you haven't properly processed, and you don't want to process them, so instead you go out and mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Or you go and do something so you don't have to think about it. All of that is stripped away, and these guys have no choice but to confront it.
Yeah.
But interestingly, as it's going on, some of them are going. You can see that it's actually been really good for them, and they're settling some of those things, and so the desperation, that internal turmoil, is quietening down because they just come to face with the fact that I've made some mistakes, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best. I'm out here. I'm surviving even in this moment. I've got something to contribute. It's not perfect, and they're just sort of processing the way through.
Are they talking, like, are they doing like a little journal?
Yeah,
log,
they have
a
cameras.
log thing, like talking to the camera.
They've got a case of cameras each, and I don't even think they come in and change the batteries for them. I think they must have solar packs, whatever. And every day they have to sort of camera journal.
Yeah.
And they don't show you every day because there's 10 guys.
Yeah.
Some of them end up breaking down in tears. Guys that don't even have a faith are like, God help me, and it's really stressful. And an interesting thing, but it just brings up that stuff, and it's had me thinking a lot about that, and then looking at some of the mental health stats that are coming out, especially post lockdown, some of the behaviours that we've seen, even men perpetrating. We know that domestic violence has increased during lockdown, and a lot of that is a sign of that internal desperation and torment and feeling of lack and not good enough, that then gets taken out in aggression on somebody else. And I hope that one of the things that we can do through our church is just build a community, guys, that it's not about sitting down looking into each other's eyes and crying every 10 minutes or anything like that, but just having a place where, while you're side by side often doing things, because that's what guys like to do, that you can just actually process and verbalise some of those things, and see other men that are going through it as well, and that have overcome some of those things, and you just build a community where don't live a quiet life of desperation. Just you've got to deal with your stuff. We've got to deal with it so that we can be healthy and we can raise the next generation and be strong, healthy men who treat women right and all those sort of things.
No, that's good. Very good. So while we've been in lockdown, I finished reading the other book I was reading. I've started reading one called Essentialism. And he sort of defines it as the ruthless pursuit of less but better in a disciplined way. So really...
Who's the author?
Greg McKeown.
Okay.
I was listening to him on Kerry Newhoff's podcast, and I thought, he sounds smart, and I'm enjoying this conversation, so I looked up his book.
Yeah, nice.
He's got another one that sort of like follows on from this one that I'll
So what's the idea?
Effortless. So the idea is just basically finding a way to really hone in on what is most essential to you in your life, and cutting out what isn't essential. What isn't essential, cutting it out of your life, so that you're just focusing the time into what is truly essential.
So are we talking time and interests and hobbies, or are we talking stuff, or are we talking right across the board?
Across the board, I think it can flow into any part of your life. It's just sort of up to the individual, really, because everyone's going to have different things that are essential, but it can hone right down into the micro, as well as, the big overarching things. And it's he sort of looks at it both in the lens of your personal life as well as like within your professional life. So even this purely within your workspace, okay, what is most essential in here in this space for me to be focusing on in your role at work?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that if you must do or
Mhm.
are the very core of what you guys are trying to achieve? And are there things that we're trying to do that are on the periphery that are taking up time that aren't actually getting us to our ultimate goal?
Right.
Maybe it's not fully aligned with our vision or values within the organisation, or maybe within the family context. It's all kinds of things within your relationship. Where are we spending time that isn't essential to us? And he sort of talked about if you don't prioritise your life, someone else will.
Right.
And so really it's about taking ownership of your life and what you do, and making sure it's you setting that and not allowing other people's demands. Because there's always, and he talks about within the professional context, there's always going to be people trying to make a demand on your life. Like, not that it's a wrong thing of them. There's just always someone else that has something that needs to be done, and they're going to be asking people. And so a lot of it's around boundary setting. How do you set boundaries up? How do you working out what you're going to say no to, and only saying yes to things that you believe are absolutely essential.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's been interesting.
So you don't go to the grave with the song still in you.
Yeah. Or everyone else's song in you.
Yeah. I think, it's interesting because there has to be a balance in that too, in terms of one of the things I've noticed in recent times, particularly coming out of COVID, that there's a lot of people going, I don't want to do that anymore, but I do want to do this. And some of it's like, well, I'm sorry, you can't pick that and not that.
Yeah.
There's responsibilities that go with that.
Yeah.
And you might not like doing this part of it, but you just don't get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Or if you definitely don't want to do that, you're responsible. So you're going to have to build a structure and people who do want to do that for you, and still being responsible while living that way.
Yeah. You're not eliminating personal responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, you're probably taking more, but you have to. Yeah. The thing is, you can't just. It's like when in leadership talk, there's a lot of talk about delegation. And I find what a lot of people do is they don't delegate at all, because delegation requires you to make sure that you have equipped people around you to pass that on to, who are not only equipped, but they're empowered.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I've seen with empowerment is don't just empower people with tasks, empower them with responsibility and authority.
Yeah.
So you don't just go do that task, but actually give them the responsibility and authority to be able to go away and decide how it's going to be done and who's going to help, etc.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but yeah, you can't just say. So whereas what a lot of people do, they call it delegating, but it's really dumping.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't want to do this part. It's like, well, who's going to do it? I don't know, but it's not core to me.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sure, that's great. That's a great thing to realise. It's not core to you.
Yeah.
So build someone and something and a basis to get that done still, because it has to be done.
Yeah. And that's where tough things come into place, of going, you have to be willing, I guess, if you're going to say this isn't core to me, there might be things that you have to be willing to let fall over then as a result. Like if it's saying that you want it to still be there, but you're saying this element of it I don't want to do.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So there are times, and that's where it comes down to, well, if you are going to give it up, then it means that you have to be willing to let it fall over, and that you're not going to blame anyone else for it.
Yeah, great.
All of that sort of stuff.
Great.
Like,
so if it doesn't happen, don't then turn around and go, well, it wasn't important to me.
Someone else should be doing it.
Yeah, well, hang on.
Well, no, it means you're taking away the responsibility of it. So
yeah, and if it falls over, then you've got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then it was core to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just didn't want to do it.
Yeah. And
That's
this
really
is where
cool.
it's a really intricate thing, because it means really digging in and trying to get to the core of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it might be, you're sort of, in some ways, you're sort of stripping things back so you can work out, because sometimes it may be there is something that's core to you, but maybe you're just coming at it from the wrong angle, or maybe it was mixed up with some other stuff going on internally, that you need to sort that out so that it finds its right place within you. Sometimes you're putting things in a place where it's not that it's not essential. It was just sitting in the wrong spot with the wrong perspective or things like that. So it's a really interesting journey to go on. And so I've just sort of been reading through. I've enjoying it. I was enjoying it, especially for the work side of stuff, as I've
great.
taken on more responsibility. Just really trying to hone in on, okay, what is the most important things for me to be focusing on? Really trying to think through to the core of what we're trying to achieve in the program that we're running. So it's good.
Yeah, cool. I reckon if you, especially in your personal world, a lot of what we do to quote unquote relax or refresh is really anesthetizes. It doesn't genuinely relax and refresh. It might relax, but it certainly doesn't refresh.
Yeah.
And it'd be a really good exercise to do in that place of going, okay, what am I doing here? Like, you know, when I get that half an hour at the end of the day and I just sit there scrolling through Facebook, it's not even important to me.
No,
I don't even care.
You're escaping, but you're not necessarily.
Yeah, what would that look like if in that half an hour I went for a quick walk or I read a great book and be a little bit more disciplined around that stuff?
Yeah, and that's it. It can go down. That's where it goes down to the little things, like how you're spending those moments of time and, building yourself up. What does build you up? What is refreshing? Yeah.
I saw
because it's definitely not about saying, like, don't do, like, it's not about eliminating anything that you think is, like, silly or fun. Like,
right.
It's about creating space so that you do have room to do, and because those most essential things might be, I want to spend and be available emotionally and physically for my family. And so you're creating space, and if you've done the work of processing why you're doing it, and then you're actually making yourself available to your family, then you don't have to get caught up with guilt for all the things you've said no to that seem really important with work or with other things outside of that, because you're saying, no, actually just spending the day relaxing with my family, being present with them because I haven't said yes to all these other things. This is essential.
Yeah.
Just having space to have fun.
Right. And especially, I know, having children at sort of the age of mine are, they're heading that tweens age into the early teens, and you've really got to be present.
Yeah.
Because they want to tell you their stories and they want to engage with you about their day. And I'm realising that actually doing a few things for my own headspace, which I've probably never really given myself permission to do because it appears selfish, but it is essential because then I can be fully present for the kids.
Yeah.
And so building that time into my week, which I'm getting better at, of going, I know that looks completely unproductive from an external viewpoint, but for me, that's a really essential time that just recharges me. Yeah. So that is essential, right?
Yeah,
because it
absolutely.
feeds into something that's super essential over here.
And that's where the whole thing of if you don't prioritise your life, someone else will. Because there's going to be everyone, you know, especially for someone in your position of leadership, there's going to be a million people that want you to do a million things. And so you have to be willing to say no to them because you're prioritising something that is essential to you and within the bigger scope of your life is more essential than all of these tasks that they might want you to be a part of and lead and make other people get on board with and all of this.
Right.
And so you have to, it's a boundary that you put up so that you can prioritise what's essential, and you may pay a short-term cost for that. But, and this is what he's getting at, when you actually set those boundaries and people understand those boundaries, and he talks about creating like social contracts, like setting expectations early with people. I won't be doing anything on Saturday for this project. You're welcome to be doing that if that's how you structure your life, but I won't be. And you set that early and you deliver on what you've said you'll deliver on,
right?
But within the boundaries that you have. And then people respect that.
Yeah.
So long as you're able to deliver on what you say you're willing to deliver, then people will generally, like within the professional context, respect that. But when you try and say yes to a million things because you're worried what people will think about you, you don't deliver. And saying yes didn't win you any respect when you don't deliver on it. Yep. So,
and I think too, particularly when you're passionate about what you do, you can be capable at a lot of things and see the merit in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so that can be really tricky to work your way through to go, oh, I'd like to be, and you might even be interested. You know, I know for me, one of the things is you look across the life of our church, and in my role, I work across the life of it. So we've got 10 locations plus some location connects. You've got a lot of different facets going on in the practical outworking of ministry. Then we've got the backbone that sits in the, you know, hopefully as much as possible behind the scenes. We really don't ever want to focus on it, but it's essential to making happen what happens.
Yeah.
And I'm in some of those rooms as well. And some of them are fun and interesting. But even then, you still go, yeah, but I don't have to be in that room. And that 2 hours would have been better spent in this one. And also I'm probably at a point in my life where working my way through that is even more difficult than people's expectations, because I've learned, you know, it's been 10 years now of learning how to navigate that. And you eventually do learn to just be able to navigate it.
Yeah.
Not always perfectly,
but
a lot better than I used to, certainly without guilt.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it's learning to go, okay, now I also need to try and be a little bit clever about just letting my insatiable curiosity and enjoyment of life and people stop me just going, oh, that's cool, let's do that. Oh, that's cool, let's do that. It's like, hang on, slow down, think about it. And so one of the things a filter I've been trying to use recently is not to make any decision that somebody else could have made.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things, again, we're trying to do in church world is allow a lot of the outworking of our vision and our values occur at a local level, because we're such a diverse church. We've got locations from the coast to the bush, from regional centres to tiny towns. Yeah. And so it has to look different. And the guys on the ground have to feel empowered to make a lot of choices. And so one of the filters I try and run through is, do I have to be the one to make that decision, or could somebody else make it? Could it be made at a local level? Yeah. And sometimes I make decisions that people probably think, well, that could have been made at a local level. And sometimes I'll be right and I just, missed it. Yeah. But other times there's things playing in the background that people don't see. And it's like, no, there's a reason we've made that. And it's just having those conversations with people. But it's been an interesting exercise because, I think this is I'm probably pretty keen to read that. It's something I'm really working on. And I wonder if it's something about our stage of life. It's like, we've gone through our 20s and in your 30s where you're just doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah. And then you're starting to go, actually, let's hone in. I want to hone in and be effective. Yeah. Yeah. And it really does come down to that, like being really effective in what you do for, and effective within, like, what are your actual goals and things like that. So, I think it's good. And one of the things he talks about there is you're wanting to create a lot of space because you want to think about a lot of ideas. You want to actually have the time to consider the ideas that come to you. But rather than just on a whim quickly saying yes to everything, it's not about then, this is my goal, I'm now going to ignore everything else around me because I'm only focused on this. Now, it's creating space in your life that you can constantly be assessing what you're focusing on. As new ideas come in, spending the time to think about them, ponder on them. Where does this fit within the context of my life, within the context of the things I'm working in, within the context of my family and those goals and aspirations, so that you can consider it, think about it, decide, no, that doesn't fit because of these reasons. It doesn't actually align with my ultimate goals and values. Or maybe there's something you ponder on, actually, this does fit, and then maybe it's because it's more effective than the thing that you have been doing or focusing on, or maybe it complements it in a way that can run side by side. Yeah, it's taking the time and creating space in your life that you can be thinking deeply about those things, rather than just rushing around. Living a shallow existence. Yeah, filling it up with stuff that isn't even important to you anyway. You just didn't want to say no to someone. Yeah. Yeah. And that's like when you really stop and think about it, madness. Like, who wants to get to the end and go, I was flat out, but
I lived everyone else's best life.
yeah, there was 25 things that I really wanted to do that I never even gave a crack at.
Yeah.
And again, we've got to be willing not to be afraid to fail in that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why some men end up, going back to our quote earlier, live a life of quiet desperation. It's like, yeah, I go to my office job, and if an office job is what floats your boat, great. But for a lot of us, it's like, yeah, I go to my office job, I sit in my cubicle, I do my thing, and
Crunch my numbers.
and I hate every minute of it.
Yeah.
I would so much prefer to be, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to start a video production company.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid it might fail.
And it's all about, it's like and if that's how you're living, you're making your life a failure in that sense so that you don't look like a failure to everyone else. Whereas the reverse is you need to run the risk that everyone else thinks you're failing because you've quit something that they think you are good
Right.
at or you should be doing, because you're actually going to pursue something that's important to you and it's not important to them,
Yeah.
which is why they don't understand it. But it's not about other people understanding your goals.
Yes.
You know, other than maybe the people really close to you that you want to,
Right.
you really want to have them understand
Yeah.
what's important to you. Actually, on that note, getting ready to move into our new house. We're hoping to be in before the end of the year.
Come on.
We thought that was going to be highly achievable, but now we're starting to second guess. But the other day, I ordered all 4 of the West Coast Premiership posters,
Oh, well played.
and
Where are they going?
They've all arrived now, so we're going to frame them. Probably have them in the garage somewhere on one of the walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hanging them in my new house.
I bet you are.
I was like, I just wanted to get something, meaningful and significant and stuff to hanging in the new home, because we've like starting to think about, what pictures do we want to get printed up and stuff like that. And so I've got them. They've all arrived now, so I'm just waiting to frame them.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, pretty
Well,
awesome.
very good.
Got the 1992 is John Worsfold caricature.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1994, 2006, and 2018.
Do you know Carlton is now has been waiting the 3rd longest time in the AFL currently?
Do you guys have the most premierships, or are you
Yeah.
second to Carlton? Collingwood, sorry.
No, most.
Most.
Yeah.
I was thinking, gee, how much would Caleb have to spend if he tried to get all of these?
So that's AFL VFL history.
Yeah. How many across
18,
VFL?
I think it is.
18.
Is it 18 or 16? 16 maybe.
Yeah.
It's somewhere around. It's one of those two. Yeah.
Wow.
But nothing for 26 years, I think it is.
So who's the longest waiting?
Maybe St Kilda is it now? I think.
Oh, because they didn't win in 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I was at the 2010 one
Were you?
for the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. I wasn't there for the next week when they came back and replayed.
Yeah. Right.
I'd gone back by then. But
Yep.
went and watched Lenny.
Oh, that would have been cool.
It was pretty cool. It was weird. Like, it was just like 101,000 people in dead silence after the siren.
Yeah, that would have been a bizarre feeling.
It was just like this little murmurs of everyone. This sort of, what happened? What's happening?
Everyone
now?
trying to figure
Oh,
out what's the rules.
They got to come back next
come-
week. Yeah.
I'm glad they fixed that glitch up.
So it's now extra time?
I believe so. Yeah.
Hope so. That's so much better.
It certainly
It's
is for
so
the
silly.
lead-up finals, and I think it is for the grand final as
Yeah.
well.
I hope they've changed it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's madness.
You can't come back the next week.
I reckon they should do 50-metre penalty shots.
Yes.
Oh, imagine the pressure.
That would be awesome. They should do what we used to do at footy training. Every now and then our coach would do a challenge at the end of training. It was like 150 or $100 up for offer. And so you had 20 metres out right in front. Then you went to left pocket, right pocket. And as soon as you miss, you're out.
Yes.
And then it went to 50-metre shot. And if you got all the way to 10 and hit the 50-metre shot, then you got $50. And everyone's respect.
Yeah, more importantly.
Yeah. Very good. Well, it's good to be back. And thanks for tuning in.
I'm glad we managed to work football in, despite the fact
Oh, yeah, got
that
it.
it's summer series.
Off season. Yeah. I'm actually considering making a comeback
Really?
next year.
Oh, mate, I hope you
I got to, yeah, well, that's the main goal, to try and get fit. I got to try and drop a few kilos, so
Mhm.
I'll see if I can get through pre-season.
Oh, good on you.
I'm nervous.
I hope you do. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
I'll have to add the goal of losing 20 kilos as well. I think.
Do you know what my daughter
I
asked me?
haven't stood on the.
I've obviously put a bit of weight on during the COVID lockdown.
I didn't even notice.
Oh, good.
You look good, mate.
Thank you. Matilda, my 5-year-old, said to me, Dad, when I'm a mum and you're the grandpa, you still going to have that fat belly?
When she's the mum and you're the grandpa.
I just laughed and said, it'll probably be fatter, darling.
So brutal yet so sweet.
Oh, no.
Good times. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll hopefully get this back up and going.
All right.
Bye.